Welcome everyone, I am the Depressed Dior. This is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 21. This is the second week of Apex of Battle, so there are matches available on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Doing any matches, if you are Silver 1 or lower in rank, you'll get extra ranking points for victories, and you'll lose less points for defeats. So always a good time to take advantage of that, especially since I am still Silver 1. This is my third attempt to try to record this because I accidentally clicked skip battle preparation, which kind of ruined my band pick commentary. Anyway, as for our opponent has one primary tank. Actually, technically, I guess, doesn't Dragon Slayer block everything nowadays? I think Dragon Slayer can tank everything as well, but honestly, he's always going to be my first ban, so it doesn't matter. But Tarantul, he can block everything. And then technically Ymir can guard against physical, so not very much in the tanking. A lot of act-agains, a lot of potentials for rushing. Got people with a lot of long legs, and yeah, it's a little bit of a mix as far as like either a mix of like really long range or global effects, and people that can just flat out rush down. And then there's characters that can support with that. Obviously, the biggest concern now is I always have to assume my opponent has an Enya and will always pick her because I'm never going to ban her because Dragon Slayer is worse in pretty much in all ways. So my opponent, of course, bans Enya. I ban their Dragon Slayer. Big surprise. Usually, I tend to open with Bright Summoner, but I decided to go with Ilya this time. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to guarantee getting any kills with Bright Summoner or if the trade would be worth it. Obviously, if I grab Bright Summoner and my opponent picks Ilya and then counter kills with Ilya, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble because I just essentially gave her free stacks to, hit me from across the universe. So I went in with Ilya. I was going to try to see if I can use her aura to kind of slow down this rush that's going to be coming my way and hopefully be able to snipe from afar because my opponent only has one primary tank. So if I can get rid of that, Ilya becomes a lot more effective. My opponent immediately bans both my tanks, so she seems to have a similar idea. Grabs Enya. So the thing about Enya, I've already mentioned this in a previous videos probably, but any act-agains or any ways to reduce cooldowns makes her far more dangerous, simply because she can easily do her mirror ability or her 3C on round 1 despite it starting in cooldown. There's no way for me to stop that. There's an act again from Liana, an act again from Eshian, and a cooldown reduction from Silika. So yeah, no matter what I do, she's going to get. If my opponent wants to give her a cooldown reduction, she's going to get it. So with that in mind, I was just like, all right, I'll just play it by ear and see what my opponent will pick. Obviously, picking a healer would double up on some of what Enya can already do. If they grab Eshian, of course, that's probably the safest bet because Eshian can provide also additional mobility. And she can also put pressure because she has rather long legs and can strike down all my mages. So I went ahead and got rid of their Ilya because I don't want to deal with that aura nonsense. I got rid of their Tarantul. So now they can't guard against anything except physical attacks. And even then, that's only from Ymir. So at this point, I go ahead and grab the Awakened one. Like I said, my goal at this point is just to do as much as I can to slow down my opponent. So we got Spellbounds from the Awakened one. We got Ilya's Angel Auras that also produce additional cost for mobility when you enter her aura. And my opponent goes ahead and gets rid of Aurelia, gets rid of Sovereign the Ice Abyss, and grabs Eshian. So I was like, all right, cool. That's happened. So at this point, I go ahead and get rid of Bright Summoner, get rid of Ymir. One thing that I did not expect, and I didn't know until recording this, is that their Bright Summoner is actually Holy class. I was kind of, with this sort of box, I kind of expected a Mage class to add to the additional rush. So that's why I went ahead and got rid of her. I got rid of Ymir because Ymir is terrible and really difficult to deal with. He is highly mobile once his chain breaks, and if Enya makes a copy of him, he can put, that's effectively a teleport. That essentially puts a Ymir even closer to me and just rushes me down. So, yeah, didn't want to deal with any of that. So I go ahead and grab Rendell. Again, same goal. I want to put as much pressure as possible from as far a distance as possible. So Rendell can do random debuffs as she is applying her little box debuffs. And if my opponent happens to rush move 3 steps while having that active, they'll also get their cooldowns or their cooldowns increased, which is a really effective way to stop any character that can do an act again, move again. So also, both the Awakened One and Randall both have the debuff staff, so their spellbounds and their boxes will also do random debuffs on top. So my opponent goes ahead and gets rid of Liana, gets rid of Audon Kelmo. Audon Kelmo is actually a pretty good choice for slowing down opponents. I've used it before, even against Anya, but Anya is actually kind of sort of a counter against the portals because she can just sweep them away with her line AoE. Anyway, my opponent grabs Sovereign of the Ice Abyss. At this point, I go ahead and get rid of Salika. I don't want to give them self-reses, and I got rid of Isolde, because obviously once she starts getting double actions, it's going to be game over for me. Also, she just has a lot of coverage. I was actually surprised that my opponent hadn't banned Bright Summoner yet, so I grabbed Bright Summoner. I still have 3 healers left, and I'm not particularly picky. If I were to pick a healer earlier, I would have grabbed Liana just so I can get act agains on Ilia to expand her range faster. But honestly, it wasn't really a big game changer for me, so go ahead and grab Bright Summoner at this point. So now I have someone that can rush the map if I need to. My opponent gets rid of Rosen Seal, which honestly I don't care about, and gets rid of Hibiscus, and they grab Liana. So they have 2 act against, which is really terrible, but there's not much I can do about it. And to be honest, I'd rather them have, since they already have their act against, I'd rather them just grab more healers at this point. So at this point, I go ahead and get rid of their Awakened One, so they don't slow me down. Also, don't want to deal with any of that teleporting, swapping shenanigans, because that's what the Awakened One also has access to. And I go ahead and get rid of Mac the Knife, because I've seen him get pretty ridiculous. He also becomes untargetable when he starts putting out his little smoke screen thing, so did not want to deal with that. So at this point, I go ahead and grab Tiaris. I could have grabbed Salika, and honestly, I don't know if Salika would have been better or not. My opponent goes ahead and opts for their Randall, so it's going to be Randalls versus Randalls here, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I have a little weird formation going on here. Alright, so Randall, no changes, I don't believe, now, and I went with Poison Bat Mages. I could have tried being like a magic tank with her, and they only have 1 physical attacker, but honestly, if I'm at the point where I have to guard, I'm probably already dead. So went with 3C, Sleep, and Dark Realm of the Box. Yeah, Sleep would be pretty good if, assuming my opponent doesn't get any sort of immunity to debuffs, which only Liana can apply, either with her Act Again with exclusive, or actually I think it's with her Talent Inscription. And then Order Creation could also provide immunity, but everything else doesn't actually provide any sort of immunity, so that's completely fine. Poison Bat Mages, no surprises there. I have Ilia here with all of her exclusives and Fairy Spirit Prophets. I got Tiaras here. I went with Wind Bloom Chanters and went with Miracle Heal and Sonata in her 3C. The 3C is mainly here just because I don't actually have any... the only people that can be faction buffed are Awakened One and Bright Summoner. Actually, technically, Ilia can be buffed by Bright Summoner, so this is just a way to get a little bit extra single target damage. In hindsight, this actually became a little awkward. I should have just stuck with her SP AoE heal still, because obviously I'm going to get hit with a bunch of debuffs from that Randall, but I didn't really think that through. In any case, Bright Summoner here, I went with Unicorns, that way I don't get hindered by the water tiles. That way I can quickly close the distance. I can get all the way to here. There's my numbers. Alright, so I can summon to here, and then go all the way to here, and I can hit their Sovereign of the Ice Abyss. So, yeah. Yep, that's my only target, is I can go after Sovereign of the Ice Abyss. Which is fine, because that's honestly pretty dangerous too. The last thing I need is Anya to make copies of Sovereign of the Ice Abyss, and I just get frozen immediately. I don't know if I don't know if the copies little frozen things stacks with each other or not, but I don't want to find out. I mean, with essentially Sovereign of the Ice Abyss and the Mirror version, she can literally ferry the entire party forward with chains. So it is what it is. Anyway, Bright Summoner here, I went with Holy Dragon Breath in both her summons. And then the Awakened one, I went with Poison Bat Mages, her swap, her 3C. And then I went with Teleport just to try to get someone like Randall closer if I need to. Randall, of course, has a move again, act again if I do need it. As for my opponent, we got Sovereign the Ice Abyss with Fairy Spirit Prophets, has all of her exclusives, and has the Icebound Vice single target. Randall here went with Spider Demon Elves, the SP version, and has 3C Scroll of the Box, which is the one that lets her tank magic damage for adjacent allies. And she can also use her little her stacks to give herself an increased guard range. And if she ever gets forced into battle, she can actually counterattack ranged attacks and attack before the enemy. And of course, she can always swap it over to the one I'm using by spending a action. And then Dark Realm Walker gives her 2 stacks of the her talent, teleports an ally unit to within 2 blocks of her, and then she can guard that, and then she'll guard that unit within 3 blocks, and she ignores melee damage reduction when attacked. Also, doing this will make it so the next attack damage is reduced by 80%. So this is what you need to do if you actually want to tank with her. In fact, this thing lets her tank with anything, which is pretty interesting. So I'm guessing the idea here is to use her to tank for Sovereign Ice Abyss, but I can bypass that. We got Liana here with SP Wizards. Wizards has 3C heal and act again. We got Eshian here with Angels. I've never seen Eshian use Angels before, but it does make sense since I'm using nothing but magic. Using all of our exclusives, and then we have Enya here with SP Holy Knights. She's using, of course, 3C, Spell Strike, and her Ancient Ablution. I guess this is the first time we've seen Spell Strike. So what this does is every time a prophecy is fulfilled, it will reduce all this unit's skill cooldowns are reduced by 1 turn. So quick way she can actually cycle her cooldowns even faster. And then it's just essentially a 2-range attack that does 1.5 times damage and does an extra 10% damage for every stack of Augur she has. This will eventually become 4-range just simply because of how her Augur stacks work. Actually, she can go up to 5 range. Alright. Anyway, with all that said and done, let's go ahead and do what you expect me I'm going to do. I'm going to, of course, open with Bright Summoner. Of course, every time you hear that sound, it's me giving a stack to both Randalls. So I need to do 30,000. With the crit, I almost did it. Unfortunately, the majority of the damage went to the troops. But I took her down to about 4,000. And so I went ahead and just pushed forward as close as I could. This was so I can actually potentially do a silence debuff if necessary. Unfortunately, it didn't proc. So at this point, I was expecting some wacky shenanigans from Enya. I wasn't sure if my opponent was going to do something like, maybe move close and like copy Bright Summoner and then use... Actually, no, it wouldn't work because it would copy everything from Bright Summoner. So it actually would copy her current cooldown state, which is currently not very good. So yeah, never mind. But obviously... I mean, she could have maybe copied Bright Summoner and then used those cooldowns. I don't know. I don't know exactly what my opponent's plan was. I did do pretty good damage with the Holy Dragon Breath and did some debuffs, but at this point now I'm going to get some wacky nonsense on me. Unfortunately, I got silence on Randall, which is bad because I'm pretty sure that affects her talent. And now she's doing the guard thing with Enya, which is fine. And of course, we get hit with even more stacks. She essentially used every single stack she had to stack as many debuffs as possible. And she, of course, has the debuff staff on her, so that's why she got the extra stuff as well. So yeah, damage taken, mobility reduction, can't heal self, no passive skills, defense down. So yeah, this is why I probably should have taken the SP heal and not Sonata of Strife, because I definitely need something to actually purge these debuffs. And right now, I don't actually have anything. Well, I guess I have what? I think I have the debuff removal staff, and that's about it. Anyway, and then Randall's the one that got hit the hardest. Got silenced. Though she resisted everything else, though. Alright, so I go ahead and move forward as far as I could with Ilya. Get that going. expand my range as much as I could. So my opponent goes ahead and does purges some of the terrain off. Gets a prophecy on Eshian. I go ahead and use the opportunity to just go to heal on Randall just to get rid of that silence so I can start actually putting debuffs on other people. I do have the exclusive helmet, so I did actually put a temporary attack blessing on Randall. But right now, Randall's not in the best position. But I could potentially do a teleport and teleport her, what, 1, 2... I can teleport her all the way to here. Have her move a couple steps, throw out a bunch of debuffs, and then potentially take another step in. But unfortunately, that still doesn't really put her in range of anything. But yeah, that's just kind of how crazy things get once you have a teleport available to you. Also, teleporting really close also puts me in range of Ashian, which is another issue to keep track of. So we got the Act Again going. The only thing about the Act Again, of course, is it did also, thanks to the inscription talent, also made her immune to all debuffs, so I can't throw anything on her, but that's okay. This Eshian can get all the way to here, and then potentially move up to here. So yeah, the range is pretty far. I would have to, yeah, if I teleported to here, I would actually be in Eshian range. Okay, so yeah, Act Again on Enya. Enya, of course, has the mirror active now, so she's going to do that nonsense. I go ahead and start throwing out debuffs. I target everyone but Enya, since Enya is immune to debuffs. I was a little hesitant to do this because I wasn't sure how many I could do before I get an Act Again. But yeah, if you spend just 2, that's enough to get an Act Again, so I definitely wanted to at least throw out what I could. Importantly, I got I got the mobility debuff on Eshian, which is really important. Everything else I don't really care about. And the rest of it I'm not that worried about. So I'll go ahead and move forward even closer. Kind of get set up for next round. Throw out more debuffs. Nothing too special. At this point, my opponent decides to copy Eshian. Eshian hasn't acted yet, so all of the cooldowns have been set as is. But it does mean that she does have the box. It does copy the debuffs as well. So if you manage to throw a bunch of debuffs out before Enya can actually do any copies, you can actually copy the debuffs. I'm not sure what to... I don't really know what the purpose this was. I mean, technically this does give her another Act Again, because both of them have dash active. And then Enya actually moves forward and decides to just start fighting my summon, which actually wounds her. So she's not at 100% life anymore. Yeah, this is kind of weird. Her not being 100% life is important because she does have holy troops, and I believe they get holy troops get like 30% damage reduction at full life with the training, with troop training. So does the dash, does a blessing dash. So Enya can now go even further out, but I don't know why. Yeah, she can go further out, but her mirror is set up here. If she leaves the mirror, she loses her partner. So she does have an increased range thanks to Augur. Goes in and shoots me, but it's not enough. Puts a prophecy on herself. Yeah, she leaves the mirror, so now she's out. She lost the copy. She's out here now. My opponent, I'm assuming the plan here. What was her plan? What was the plan here? I mean, technically, the real Eshian can go to here without triggering the box. And then use Rainbow Sparkle to get into range to give Enya another Act Again. But since Enya's True Sight Water Mirror is still at 1 cooldown, that doesn't actually do anything. So yeah, I don't know what the plan was. But Enya's in range. And unless this Enya gets out of range, like out of this aura, I would be able to kill her regardless. But I already have plans to kill her right now, because she's actually in kill range right now. I can only move 1 step with Awakened One, but I can also swap with the Randall I push forward. I go ahead and put up Spellbound. Since the immunity that you get from the act again from the talent inscription only lasts for 1 turn, I believe. So that's worn off, so I'm able to put the debuff on her. As mentioned, I do have the debuff staff as well. I also put Spellbound on Eshian to make her even slower. And I can move 1 step. I actually didn't need to even move 1 step at this point. I have 4 range, and then 3C is actually 5 range. So I just need to make sure I do... Looks to be like 29,000 damage in AoE. Spellbound, of course, will increase my damage by another 8%. So, and she's not at 100% life, so let's see how that works. She also has no buffs. Wait, how does she have no buffs? Didn't this trigger? Oh no! So True Sight Mirror. Okay, so the faction buff you get from True Sight Mirror only triggers when you succeed in a prophecy, I believe. Sorry, I'm just trying to read this because I just realized she doesn't have any buffs. Someone creates blah blah blah, can act again after use. Yeah, she's supposed to get something that gives Is that... Oh, I think it might be from a passive skill. That's what actually gives the faction buff. So yeah, she doesn't have a faction buff active. That's crazy. Well, can I do 29,000 damage with 3C on a spellbound target? The answer is yes. And then my opponent gives up immediately after that. Yeah, there was nothing my opponent could do at this point. My Bright Summoner would have been dead. No questions asked, but at that point, it was an Eshian, a Randall, and a Liana. An Eshian with Angels can be pretty dangerous, especially at full life, but I can just keep throwing debuffs on her. And I still had... Yeah, I mean, with Ilya expanding her range even further, and then Randall, of course, being there to also provide some much-needed backup, I think, yeah, there was not much that can be done. And I could always just use freaking... the Awakened one to keep just putting more pressure. So yeah, I had Spellbound, like I said, I had the mobility debuff and Spellbound and my aura from Ilia's Angel, so I would have had time to expand my range all the way to the entire battlefield and just, just snipe with Ilia at my leisure. So yeah, quick and easy match. I don't know what Z Knight's plan was. I pretty much had very few options in the very beginning because I was like, I had to get some sort of number advantage. I had to get rid of their Sovereign the Ice Abyss, which thankfully I was able to at least get one of them. If my opponent had changed the formation to be like, instead of that L shape, done something like a reverse C shape, I would not have actually been able to get any kills on the first round. Which then I would have had to just do something else, which I probably would have done some sort of teleport shenanigans or something, maybe, to see if I can make it happen. But yeah, in any case, enough rambling. Like I said, I was really confused about that. I can check real quick. I have my own Enya. We got... There we go, Enya. So... Yeah, you're actually supposed to take this passive. That's where you get your Yellow Legends faction buff from. And it's actually, I believe it's pretty important to have since your mirror is supposed to get that buff. Well, yeah, I guess whatever. I don't know what the plan was. I think next week is another summon. I believe it's going to be another dark faction buff summoner, and supposedly this character is pretty strong as well. She has the ability to but I think is able to put up a mirror or something that makes it so she's untargetable and can't be hit with AoEs while it's active, which will definitely give me a lot more options as far as like how I can push forward and put pressure on my opponent. As for who I would drop for her, though, it would probably be Autumn Kelmo. Though Virilli is also an option at this point, since I don't really need Virilli that badly anymore. So, some ideas to think of. But yeah, we're definitely going to tag her in, even at 3 stars, because she's just going to be that useful. Or I may use some shards to get her up to 5 stars at least. In any case, let's go ahead and show off some data. So, Bright Summoner, I've done 7 matches, and I've won 5 and lost 2. So yeah, I've won 5 times with Bright Summoner, and she's won the most matches for me so far. Still haven't used Anya, still haven't used Salika, but I've gradually been using the other characters little by little. I kind of alternate between either opening with a Bright Summoner or Ilya at this point. There's a few rare occasions where I may pick a tank or a healer right off the bat, depending on what my opponent's trying to rush in the ban pick. But it is what it is, and gradually expanding my map wins. So yeah, I still haven't won in the new map, and I usually tend to never win on the Gemini Bridge. So yeah, pretty good. 71% win rate. That's not going to last. All right. Hopefully next week, I believe Apex Battle will be over, but I should have enough of a win streak that I might be able to get gold 3 if I win next match without any losses. And if I get any losses, that's fine. I don't actually mind staying in Silver 1 for a bit longer. Anyway, I'll go ahead and call it here. I am the Depressed Hero. This is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 21. I'll see you guys later.